All right, so I want to talk to you today about something really important for every entrepreneur, particularly when you're just starting out, or if you're somebody who has really struggled in your entrepreneurship journey. You start thinking you look more like a hobbyist than an actual business owner. You're going from idea to idea, or you're jumping from one coach to the other, and you're asking the same question: how can I find my niche? How can I find my big idea? How can I find my unique potential, my marketable skill set? If you are one of these people, there's one word for the problem or the complex of problems that you are dealing with. That word is called clarity. Clarity. You are looking for a clear picture that will give you both direction, right? Meaning, should I go between A and B? You're looking for something that is compelling enough to you that makes you say, "Oh, I'll go A, not B," right? That's direction. But beyond that, you're also looking for conviction, right? You're looking for something that resonates on multiple levels, an idea or a context of solution providing or problem solving, or the work itself, or even the team, the structure. You're looking for a combination lock, or a combination code where and have you ever seen one of those circular combination locks? You got to go three left, four right, then go back left again. Well, this is what the search for clarity looks like for many entrepreneurs, right? You are searching for what really resonates with you, what feels right, but what is so strongly reinforced by the other things that you've known, that you've felt, that you've experienced, and that you observe, that you are not going to give it up easily at the first sign of friction, or at the first feeling of fog, where it's like, where for a day or two or a week or two, it's not as exciting or as clear emotionally and mentally anymore. So the first thing in clarity is direction, right? Which of these five choices should I take advantage of? Which is somewhat of a unique problem and challenge in today's day, because we actually have so many more choices than just a generation ago, that it can be its own separate problem. If you want to know more about that, there's a great book called The Paradox of Choice, where Barry Schwartz, a psychologist, talks about the tyranny of choice. When you have too much choices because of the absolute explosion in information, that's, certain things can happen psychologically and make you fall into analysis by paralysis, or something that I call the endless runway problem, where you're just like a plane circling round and round and round and never takes off. Failure to launch type of thing. So that direction is one. But the second is conviction, right? The forward push, the propulsive push, the catalytic push for you to just get off whatever you were doing yesterday and launch, ship a project, finish a project. Don't wait for the perfectionist instinct impulse, where you're like, "Oh, it could still be better, it could still be better." But what you're really doing is you're hiding away from showing the world your finished project, or your finished video. In some cases, like, some of us really don't want to appear on video, and you might be like me, but here I am. I'm doing the video, for better or for worse. You got to do what you need to do. And so I'm going to talk about clarity from that standpoint. There are some frameworks. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Coach Gogo. I have been a consultant and coach. I am the leader at Idea Age Consulting, a small firm dealing with professional services uh, practice owners who want to build income streams based on their intellectual property, or who want to build ongoing systematic marketing systems, growth systems, based again on their knowledge, and turning their knowledge and their skills and their expertise into visible online infrastructure that brings them leads, prospects, and clients. All right, so that's who I am. I also have my more personal site at askcoachgogo.com, where I deal with more things like this, clarity and other issues related to entrepreneurship and to innovation and to starting new things and to being a thought leader. Here's what I want to share with you about clarity. A tool that I use with many of my clients, especially in the coaching arena for entrepreneurs and business owners, is what I refer to as a summit vision. A summit vision is a vision of you tomorrow. It's a story you tell yourself, especially if you're a visual person and you tend to be imaginative. You can tell yourself this story in pictures. Some people use vision boards, which look kooky at first, but they actually work. If you're a very strongly visual person, then it acts as a reinforcing point to take you back, remind you again of what really gives you enthusiasm, gives you animates your spirit, is and acts very catalytic for you in the day-to-day moments when you forget why you're doing what you're doing. But the summit vision is that big dream that is so big that you thought about letting it go. And you thought about letting it go, but you shouldn't. I'm here to encourage you to recover whatever big dreams you had, dreams you are tempted to let go of. Don't let go of those big dreams. Don't think, I mean, and here's when you know you have a summit vision. It's so exciting to you and so compelling to you because it comes from your hidden parts, all right? But here's another thing. It's so big that you question whether um, you question whether you should go after it. Because in a way, you're afraid that if you go after it and you don't reach it, it could break you. And what you have to do with it is sort of leave it hanging off in the distance where you can look at it, but it's not really something that you can attain, quote unquote, realistically. There's no such thing as realistic because that many of the things we think we will attain by linear means of our own efforts, our own direct input output. That's not how it works. These are summit visions, are dreams that are big that you don't necessarily see how you're going to get there. The truth is, how people do big things is a complex of them and the world. When you show up and you step up to your vision, the provision comes. A lot of times through other people who hear your vision. When they hear the clarity of your vision, they are compelled by it, and resources begin to align in lockstep with the vision you have articulated and the direction that you have made concrete moves in, and the level of conviction that people can perceive from what you're doing. So you don't need to worry about your ability or that word of realistic. That's not the point. The point is that this is a big thing that makes a wave that moves you spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and that is a story compelling enough for you to enjoy imagining yourself at the center of, being the catalyst of. And when you understand that this is a summit vision, don't run away from it, because there will come a time where you will be tempted, because of how big it is, to either run away from it or to be embarrassed by it, depending on your situation and how far on the outside it looks like you're away from that. Throw away all those kinds of ideas that will want to discourage you from grabbing onto your summit vision. This is the most important thing I can share with you about clarity. Reach back and accept the kind of dream and imagination about yourself and about your life that keeps recurring, that keeps coming back to you even when you've put it away. It might be 3 months later, it comes back again. 3 years later, it comes back again. If you notice anything like that in your life, that is probably a really strong clue that many of the invisible parts of you are really, really attached to that combination of um, that picture. And so don't let it go without actually throwing out there in the world. And I'm going to give you the steps in the platform launch year program, which you will hear about um, at the end of this. One of the things that's important about the program is that I'll show you how to connect from where you are, a trail or a strategic pathway to eventually be in position for your summit vision, even when that vision changes over time. Because what's important is building the platform so that however your vision changes, you have a platform that can make provision for the vision. Oh, that rhymed. Okay. So the summit vision is really important. And again, I'd like to reiterate what I already covered, that if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person, or you tend to be purpose driven, really mission and purpose driven, really concerned about a particular problem, and you just can't let it go. As soon as you're done with work, you think about it, or you're thinking about it while you're at work. Um, or if you are a profit driven person and you are in a knowledge driven business, then you're going to be interested in this concept. Now, here's the thing though about clarity. Clarity, our idea of clarity is so messed up because a lot of people are indirectly selling clarity. Some years ago, when The Purpose Driven Life was a book that sold millions of copies, that's really a book on clarity. All the books that you see out there about various ways to what kind of a person you are, um, um, all the books that are related to psychometric testing, to personality testing, those books are all about clarity. If you have ever read a book about your leadership potential or your unique potential or your gifts, those books are all about clarity. Um, and even a lot of the books regarding career or direction, it's about clarity. So what I want to teach you in this is a general approach to clarity that's more realistic. A general approach to clarity that's more realistic for the situation that many of us are in. You while you're looking for clarity, you still have to handle your now responsibilities. You still have to deal with the things, the urgent things that are here. Not all of us have the now have the situation to leave our children and our families or our elderly parents or whatever and run off to some retreat in some exotic place in search of clarity, maybe at the foot of some guru at the top of a mountaintop, right? Those people who, more power to you if that's you. But I'm talking about clarity for everyday people who've got to stick to, a routine schedule, in the middle of, Mr. Everyday, the average life. All right. And for you, so what we're going to do is understand first that you need to drop a couple of misconceptions about clarity. The author and marketing guru Dan Kennedy once said that, remarked that most people want clarity, but they don't understand and are not willing to do the work required to gain clarity. And what was really important about that is that, subsequently he talked about just how valuable the clarity of all the things you learn and all the knowledge domains you seek to master in entrepreneurship and in business and in management or executive leadership. Clarity may be the most directly valuable of them all. Because what clarity is a simple conception of where am I, where are we really right now, and where do we want to get to, or where do I want to get to? And then a sort of sober and accurate system for assessing the factors, fog, frictions that stand in the way of going from where we are now and where we want to get to. A nice, clear headed assessment of what you really have available to you, where you have now. Because a lot of people think that um, the blindness that many of us show towards ourselves in the present has to do with not seeing the blind spots, not seeing the trouble spots, not seeing the friction spots, and all of that. And that's true. But I will tell you that the actual biggest blind spot and misconception of them all when you're starting things is the vast majority of people do not see what I refer to as their wealth matrix, which is the complex of assets, tangible and intangible, um, technological or social, the whole circle of accessible resources in and around you that are available for whatever journey or strategy you choose to pursue. And this is so crucial. I'm telling you, when you understand that that is the first thing you must do is to shake off put on a new lens so that you can have just as much clarity into your advantages and assets as you have into the barriers and the vacuums and the gaps that are in your way. You have already done 70% of the transformational work that it'll take to get to where you want to go. I hope that makes sense. But let's talk about clarity in other ways. Another thing about the journey to clarity is that it is not necessarily quick or instant. And if you are growing up, or if you grew up in a culture like most of us, if you're or you came up in a time where everybody just wants things faster, and sometimes we don't even know why we want things faster, but the ethos of convenience has been sold to us, and then the ethos of speed being convenience has been built on top of that convenience. So now we don't even question half of the things we must have fast. It's become an internal reflex or an impulse with us. The question though is, you need to understand right off the bat that clarity does not happen and will not happen instantaneously. And everybody who's promising you, include, if I sound later like I am promising you instant clarity, take it as an honest mistake. Take it as an honest mistake, okay? Or a dishonest one, but it's a mistake. So let me just tell you here, for full disclosure, clarity just cannot happen. It cannot be guaranteed to you, because there is nobody on earth who has the resources or the interest to deep dive so deeply into your life at an individual level and do the work of clarity for you. It's like the late great Jim Rohn says that nobody can do your push-ups for you. You got to do those yourself. Even if you're a billionaire today and you want to get healthy, you still got to do your own push-ups. All right. So that's the same for everybody. The work of clarity is going to belong to you, no matter what anybody tells you in a sales letter, in a sales video, and doesn't matter. When you accept and understand that, you have already started to win. Because now that you know that clarity is not quick, what you need to do is, how do I then manage the work of clarity? How do I make it manageable? That brings up another truth you have to remember. Clarity is not linear. The road to clarity is not linear. It's not one day, after one day uh, I'm going to be clear up to level one. And then 10 days after that, I'm going to be 10 times as clear. It sounds cartoonish, it sounds dumb, it sounds silly that I'm saying this, but I have to explain that a lot of times it depends on what media you ingest in and who you're listening to. You can start to have these sorts of presumptions layered in the depths of your mind and operating, and you not realizing that you're operating on this paradigm. Clarity is not linear, and that doesn't even have to be a bad thing. It just has to be managed. Just like we said, clarity is not quick necessarily. Sometimes you do get a paradigm shift. Sometimes you do get a new insight that shakes you to your foundations, that hooks onto so many of the open hooks in your mind that you feel like, wow, my life just changed. That's happened to me, and that has happened to some clients of mine, and that's happened to a lot of people. But that's not what the kinds of clarity that you can anchor your whole business, you can anchor the next 3 years, the next 7 years, the rest of your life on. It's not the same as just gaining a new insight that unveils the layer of something that is now possible to you that you didn't know was possible. There are two different levels of things. The kind of clarity I'm talking about is going to provide both direction and ongoing conviction, so that you're not wishy-washy, so you don't fall into a entrepreneur type of pattern where you're here for 3 months and then you back off because you think that's something else. Like when everybody talks in the entrepreneurial world about shiny object syndrome, that's a lack of clarity displaying itself. And so what you are going to get now is to understand that clarity ain't necessarily quick, clarity ain't necessarily linear. So you don't start to doubt your course just because there are a few twists and turns and it doesn't move fast. And we'll talk about that. And then the third is, clarity takes work. Now, this is the part that for some people, maybe not you, but for some people, it really is a surprise. a lot of people expect that clarity just happens sort of automagically, like I'll go to the right coach, or I'll go to the right teacher, or I'll watch the right video, and it'll just take place. Yes, clarity takes work. And that's not necessarily bad news, right? Like, here's the thing. The good news about this is that if you were thinking that clarity is something that some people tend to have, or that clarity about what they're going to do tends to just come and it's not in your control, you just sort of, you're there, and then clarity comes like a blinding flash of inspiration, then the good news here is that you can do things, you can actually prime the pump. You can actually do things to have some personal agency, to have some power, and some power over whether you will achieve clarity about your direction, about the things you should do or not. and and it's not, it's not rocket science, but at the same time it is work. It is a way of managing yourself, a way of managing input and output, right? It's a way of managing how you translate the information you're getting, the kind of information you look for, the kinds of activities that you do, and how you manage the overall process of being somebody who's searching for a compelling vision that gives you, for your business and for your life, that gives you um, that gives you direction and conviction, that both points you in a direction and gives you the propulsive push to keep going, to keep sticking to your direction, and frameworks for understanding when you should adapt your approach, when you should let go. That's what makes clarity. So the more you have a concrete concept of how you are going to have, how you are going to reach your clear vision, your clear picture for what's really driving you, the better and the easier your path towards actually achieving it is going to be. All right, but so the with that being said, I'll give you the big picture outline of the kind of work that clarity, my, at least in my approach and my system, to a certain extent, it's based on uh, um, a framework called identity control theory, and that in turn, so that's the presumptions of that sort of feeds into this approach, balanced by adaptations to the real world discovery processes, entrepreneurial processes for people who are in what I refer to as the the innovation pathway, versus, yeah, or the discovery pathway, also the innovation pathway, versus people who are in more of a rules pathway, where the rules of the game for them are fixed. All right. So here's the thing. So in the first step, talk about a self audit. Some years ago, well, about 11 years ago, I had a self audit with a gentleman who had, who was at really a big time crossroads, not just in his career, but, in his career and the particular job position he was in at the moment, in his personal life, in his financial life. And the thing with these kinds of personal crossroads and transitions is that they can be very chaotic and confusing. And when you are a grown adult and you are in a chaotic and confusing situation, it easily breeds stress and depression and all sorts of ugly emotional experiences, because a lot of times you are the one responsible for other people. Um, if you're if you're sort of in the middle part of your life, somewhere between 35 and 55, then you know what it is to be sometimes, a lot of times you probably know what it is like to be in the middle of two generations where you are keeping one eye on your parents and seniors in your life and looking after some of the situations that are going on with them and making sure that things are sort of okay with them. And at the same time, you're looking at your children and what's going on with them. And you can get caught in the middle. And meanwhile, you have your own problems going on. And you're trying to sort of balance all of the whole thing at the same time. So it's important that you go through a process where you can sort of put things in their place and audit yourself and audit your situation and really be clear about why you want to do what, and and sit in on some questions in a systematic way and drive those questions and drive pathways to answers for those questions. A lot of times the problems that translate into feelings of stress and paralysis and just feeling uneasy in general all the time, when you turn those feelings into concrete questions, even before you find the answers, a lot of the residual feelings of stress and anxiety go away because you've taken the place and time that you're in from a situation of disembodied anxiety where you know you have a problem but you have not drilled down to give it form, to now having given those problems and challenges, which is what I'll call them. They a lot of times they're just challenges, not really problems, but turn those challenges or dilemmas into very specific questions. And now you can go about feeling stronger, feeling better while you've set in place the systems and the activities, the schedule that'll give you the answers. So a self audit and a situation audit. Where am I? I've got a book here. Let's see. Okay, right here. Um, I wasn't gonna do this, but okay. So this is a book, free advertising, right? But this is one of some of the kinds of books that I have especially over the last 10 years, as I've coached a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. This is one of these books. It's called 344 Questions, and by Stefan Butcher. I'm not sure how he pronounces his name, but one of the interesting things about this book is that all it is questions, and it encourages you to really mess it up, tear the book. Here's the first question in the book. Okay, I don't know if you get but it's where are you now? And where are you now is sort of a loaded question, right? Like, where are you financially? Where are you emotionally? Where are you socially? Where are you um, relative to where you thought you would be? And how are you processing that? How are you maintaining serenity? Or how are you surrendering that picture of where you thought now would be so that you can have a new and different and perhaps even better picture? So when you talk about doing a self audit or doing a situation audit, it's really about just getting a handle on the things that are multiplying in the back of your mind and causing you stress and anxiety, taking them and turning them into concrete questions that you can ask yourself and that you can ask others. And that's when you have a breakthrough. Um, Now, there's also something that I personally practice, which is a scan. And this scan is very different. A scan is sort of like how if you've been to the grocery store, there's a lot of times you go to the grocery store if it's a if it's a well-funded grocery store, they're gonna have these electronic scanners, right? That that have a laser shooting through them and they can read and make a read through and see what the produce is and what the product is that you've brought to the cashier and check for pricing and check for information. Well, you have to have your sort of scanner in here, and what you're scanning for, I can give you some of those frameworks, but a lot of times you want to scan for the strengths, the skills, the stories that you have that have made up your life thus far. And you want to also be scanning your situation and scanning the horizon. And the horizon is a metaphorical horizon. You can take a weekend and go scan the horizon at the beach too. That's not going to hurt you, right? But what we're talking about is the metaphorical horizon, where you're scanning through for problems or situations that fit the stories and the skills and the strengths and the inclinations that you have. And this is a scan that is, I have frameworks. Like, I have a document called the Shell Audit, and this is just designed to rinse through. And there are other kinds of documents that I have to help you, tools to help you just rinse through and work through what you're working with and the situation out there. There's a lady named Barbara Sher, who is an author, a really strong author for people. There are people out there who really never seem to find their thing, because their thing is not a specific thing. Their thing is discovery. And you might have heard some of these people call themselves multi-potentialites, multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate. And and sometimes they accuse themselves or are accused by others of being jacks of all trades, generalists, and different kinds of names. But what they really are is just they have the Renaissance personality. They really feel constrained by being about just one thing. Well, Barbara Sher talks about a personality known as the scanner, the person who really wants to know the foundational, or at least a little bit, about a lot of different things. You don't have to be a scanner to scan and to take advantage of this scanning attribute that everybody can have, especially when you're at a crossroads, when you're at a career transition, when you are at a crossroads in your business where it feels like you're stuck, and you're looking at your business model, and you're looking at, should you change markets? Should you extend to new and different products or services, or extend your product line? When you're making major strategic decisions, scanning is what you should do. Another word for it is research. You don't just let the pain of the moment, the pain of the intersection, grind you down until you're sort of paralyzed. No, it's a personal research project, and you want to face it with vigor and energy. And that's what Dan Kennedy meant by the work of clarity. Clarity takes work, and this is the work that you should do. It doesn't have to be endlessly, eternally scoped, right? You can narrow the scope and say, I'm devoting the next 2 weeks to getting these questions answered. And some of the answers might be located in your library. Some of the answers might be located at the end of a Google search. Some of the answers might be located in you using a teleconference line, getting permission from your close friends and family, bringing them onto the call and asking them very targeted questions about you and their observations, or even using a third-party coach or a catalyst, somebody who can step in and ask your family members those questions, so that they can be more honest with them, when they know that the answer is just going to be honest. Because getting real honest feedback from people who love you can be one of the most difficult. Either feedback about you, or about your idea, or about your book title, or about whatever projects, how you're allocating and spending your money, how you're living your life. Getting honest feedback from the people who know and love you best, or even just your clients or people like that, it can be very difficult. There's lots of rooms, and there's lots of incentive to gloss over details that you are really going to need to help you see clearly and make a decision. So you want to know that, apart from a self and a situational audit, there's a scan that takes place where you're doing a broader research set. And then when you bring all this information together, you want to start doing small projects, or what I refer to as catalytic projects. These are projects that why projects are really important to understand and to implement in your personal life, not just in your professional life, is because of the nature of projects having a definite start and a definite end. And that is a gift. A lot of us don't like to fail. A lot of us don't like to clearly not succeed at something. But if you don't give yourself a deadline, if you don't give yourself a criterion of success in something that you do, you you face a really dangerous situation that I refer to as the endless runway problem. That is, this is how you can go for years and not accomplish something that you desire to, that you have the skills to, that you have the temperament and the gifts to, and you talk about it a lot, you maybe, but you somehow mysteriously never get there because you never found a way to translate the wishes and the dreams and the vision and the goals and the plans that you had into projects that can succeed or fail, that can ship product and service, that can ship results and outcomes. So you have to commit to projects, and they can be small, and you can be honest. You can work on ways to really be honest about what it is you're nervous about in actually installing a project, executing it, um, or not. And you don't have to jump into something that scares you. Like, the beautiful thing about this way of succeeding while searching for clarity, if if I should put it that way, is that you can still write the rules. You don't have to traumatize yourself to move forward, but what you do have to do is move forward. And this is a way of moving forward. All right. So these are, small catalytic projects that you can launch. If you want resources to explore the philosophy and ideas under this, in this path, there's a book called Small Bets by, I don't remember the author's name. And then there's another book by Barbara Sher. Well, you can just get all her books, but I believe it's how, Refuse to Choose. That's more for you. I think it's a book called Refuse to Choose, and that's for you if you're somebody who's been described or who can honestly describe yourself as a jack of all trades, or you're somebody who doesn't seem to be able to stick to one thing, or you really, really get the energy drained out of you if you're dealing with one thing for more than a year. You've never been on a job more than 3 years or 3 months or whatever. There are aspects to your personality that need continuous refreshment with novelty. You really seem to have an emotional dependence on novelty. Then there are ways to make that work, but you have to keep moving forward. You cannot be somebody that stays stagnant, because ordinarily, without a framework for gaining clarity, what you will do is end up stagnating, because most of the world does not work that way. Most of the world does not work in a way where you do one thing, then you do another. One of the reasons I'm a consultant is because I did not want to be sitting on the same project for 3 years. And a lot of jobs are designed exactly that way. You're doing the exact same thing. I pretty much, when I was working in the IT industry, specifically in telecom, um, I realized after a while that, wow, I have a 3 year cycle. And sometimes, and that was after doing this kind of work, doing this work of clarity that I'm sharing with you. Because what would happen is, because I did this work, I was able to look back at my life and see a pattern that was in plain sight. I just never saw it. Sometimes they would come to me somewhat around the end of that cycle, and they would offer me a promotion, or they would, and I would just say, no, I'd rather not have a promotion, and I'd rather not keep this job. What I want to do is go somewhere else and do something else. And you have to solve that. You cannot stagnate though. All right. So what I'm giving you is a real system for succeeding, for building a success pathway, a success strategy, and a success platform while searching, while continuing your work on clarity. And if that clarity work takes 3 months, then you've been building your platform anyway. If that clarity takes 1 year, you've been building that platform anyway. If that clarity takes 18 months or 3 years, you've been building your platform anyway. The point, I started this story, but I had a client of mine, and we've had a great relationship. He became a partner, but he was a mentee and a client, as a coaching client of mine, sometime around 10 years ago or so. I don't remember the exact date, but it was towards the end of the year. And we met, and that's the person I said was in a complete crossroads in his life. And In 1 hour, we were able to distill for him a direction, a general direction. Here's the bad news about clarity, though. In one instant, he knew and positioned himself for a new career as a consultant. That happened in the first hour we met, so he knew that. But the question of what exact consulting niche he was going to be in, the activities he was going to do, the context he wanted to set up for himself, those were questions that went on for almost a year after that, before he settled down and started out a new venture in a new career that took all like 3 or 4 different skills from 3 or 4 different careers and jobs and backgrounds and his personality and brought them into a new arena. Today, he owns 2 businesses, including a digital agency and another business that is more for people live, for people in his city. So the point I'm trying to make is that you don't know the timeline, and you really need not be concerned with that. It doesn't have to paralyze you. It doesn't have to be a fail factor for you. All right. Now, we talked about we talked about the scanning, and then I talked about the author of Small Bets and Refuse to Choose. The biggest idea with that is just running these catalytic projects, very small scale, 90-day projects, 30-day projects, projects that should be finished in 1 week, projects that should be finished in 2 days or in 3 hours, those kinds of things. And layering that, shipping results, so you can look at the results and build a cycle of success or of improvement. As long as you are learning, you are not failing. As long as you're moving forward and not paralyzed, you are not failing. You are not, I'm giving you the secret to always succeed, to succeed every day from now till forever. All right. And that is that you are putting things out into the world. You are creating a trail and a tracks. You're creating tracks behind you, and you are creating data for your complexity machine to learn from and to improve and to seed clarity breakthroughs. All right. So finally, another pillar of work has to do with um, building a social infrastructure around you, whether that's a coach, whether that's a mentor, or the more informal structures that I teach to help you gain the knowledge both about yourself, about the situation, and about the intersection between yourself and the situation. Sometimes you just need other people. I know everybody wants to be a self-made person, but I'll tell you, that is the idiot's road to success, to try to be quote unquote self-made, because it's a myth. I don't mean that, so people mean that term differently. But if you look at everybody who has gone on an asymmetrical ascent journey, where they go from one level to a whole other next level, there are all kinds of resources, by the way, from other people that they tapped into, all kinds of positive phenomena, positive social phenomena, where people say, I want to help that guy, or I want to help that lady. I want to help that girl. I want to help that young lady. And then they pick up where you could not do for yourself. And they fill in the gap because you were on the road and you had an agenda and you were moving towards it. So this is important. If this is something that makes sense to you, then when you attend the program, it's called the Platform Launch Year, you'll be introduced to a framework for building in 4 layers a platform that can help you, regardless of what your specific inclination is for ascent and for influence, regardless of the very specifics of it, whether it's something you want to build for your career in a corporate ladder structure, or if it's something that you want to build outside of the laddered system of a corporate environment, how to turn your identity and the assets and advantages around it in its immediate vicinity, in addition to your your interests, in addition to your insights, your key ideas. Insights are not just ideas. Insights are the ideas, the kernel of the idea, the idea behind the idea, the really powerful distillation of an idea that just makes you stop, that brings everybody's attention to you, that brings your attention to you. All right. So your insights, your identity, your interests, things that, yes, you may not have great competence in at the moment, but there are things that you are deeply involved in, seem to have a recurring interest in, seem to come up to your mind, or seem to be in the intersection of your life. And then the intersections, the things that don't necessarily, two aspects or three aspects of yourself that don't necessarily fit within your job, within your current career, within your current business, but that can be weaponized if they're put together. The cartoonist, the name, what's his name? The cartoonist Scott Adams. Scott Adams wrote and created the character we know as Dilbert. And Dilbert, if you don't know, is a sort of a cartoon character that's set in a business environment, specifically a corporate environment. And Scott Adams has turned Dilbert. I think I have one of the Dilbert books maybe in my library downstairs, but Scott Adams has turned Dilbert into a multi-million dollar intellectual property franchise. So he's an artist who makes money while he sleeps, because he's created intellectual property that's in syndication, that goes out to hundreds, maybe thousands of newspapers and publications. Now, here's what's important about Scott Adams. He talks about how he is at the intersection. If he were just he's not the best cartoonist in the world, and he's not the best business mind in the world. But by bringing business and cartoons together, or cartoons about business, he literally is the best at that created imaginary niche of business cartoons, right? And he's basically the world leader in that. And so you have hidden intersections to your story, hidden intersections to your identity and the immediate vicinity that you have not explored with somebody who has the expertise to guide you on that mission. And Platform Launch here is the pathway where you can get access to this very expensive coaching that I've only previously offered to individuals, usually business owners, who can afford to take it and leverage it in their business for return on investment. So it's really important that you understand that these are things that you already have. You just have to see them clearly. And not just that, your interpersonal network, right? That's another of those assets and advantages that's in immediate vicinity, all right? And whether that's the virtual interpersonal network or the live, personal, local interpersonal network. These are all aspects of what I refer to as your wealth matrix. And what I show you how to do in Platform Launch Year is to take your wealth matrix and systematically turn it into a platform for building an audience, and turning that audience in not just the audience, but also the infrastructure, implemented infrastructure, a website, a blog column, even a free blog website, like, and there are a lot of tools out there. You don't want to, technology does not need to get in your way. That's the beauty about the era we're in now. But you turn that into audience, and you turn that audience and that framing, that packaging of your individual gifts and assets and the advantages that are within you or in close vicinity, and you turn those into influence, income, and impact. So if you're somebody who's mission minded, you want to spark a movement, you want to start a charity or an NGO or a ministry, this is a formula that you can use to distill your essence in this way and launch it into an impact vehicle. If your priority is to launch an influence vehicle for whatever reasons, we're in the political season. So if you're a political person, you want to get onto the board of the local school board or the parent teachers organization, You can use some of these strategies to amplify your personal goals for influence, or influence if you're a career person in a corporate track, building influence in your job. That's another way of doing it, or building influence in your industry or in your industry segment outside of your job, which is a great hack for the next time you want to go and ask for a promotion or a raise, is to have a center of influence or an avenue of influence in your industry, in your job title perhaps, but outside of your company. So that's something that a lot of people don't know who are in the latter track. All right. But also, if you are really specifically looking for an income boost because you are a professional practice, you're professional, you run a professional services firm, you are a freelancer, or knowledge-driven expert, whether you're an author or a speaker or a trainer or a consultant or a coach, and you need more profits, you need more clients, you need more leads, you need more revenues, or you need to figure out a second system so that you can make money while you sleep. Then if that's you, then now you're talking about income and using this platform launch year framework for income. Or if you're just somebody who's starting out and you're like, I need a plan B, I need a side gig, I need something that I can start building, and you're interested in information, either in information business or you're interested in online business, then Platform Launch Year is also for you, because you learn to understand the key dynamics of leveraging the internet for your income strategy. So this is Platform Launch Year in a nutshell, and the way that you get clarity outside of whether you join the program or not is going through these steps that I described to you. A self audit. Where am I? What am I about? What are my unique strengths? What are my values? Not the values you pretend to, but the values that you can identify from your life story. And then the situation audit. What's really going on? I really like to set the context. What's going on in the big picture? One of the weaknesses we have is that we all about ourselves when it comes to these kinds of search and analysis and clarity types of projects, but we don't think enough about the people who are adjacent to us, the people who might be our competitors, people who might be our substitutes, people who look just like us. So if you're between jobs, once upon a time I got laid off. I got laid off from a job in the telecom industry at the exact same time as 90,000 people in the telecom industry in an area that was chock full of telecom companies. So on one hand, you looked around and you saw all the other companies that were still, that were not going out of business and not laying off thousands and thousands of people. And you say, hey, you know what? If I just, I'll just go and do a deep dive on all these companies, and I've got a broad skill set, I've got a Cisco certification, blah, 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 blah. And I'll just go apply for a bunch of, I'm sure I'm going to get something real quick. That works unless there's 20 or 25 people applying for the exact same job at every job that you apply for. Then suddenly your calculation that you made does not work at all, right? This is the same thing that happens when you are thinking about where to express your uniqueness and your talents. Even if, okay, so take and this is also for artistic personalities. A lot of artists don't think about this, like what makes your art different, what makes your idea different. You have to think about this as a person building a platform. How do I take these gifts and inclinations and talents and gift zones that I have, and focus points and problem points that I have, and how do I turn them into something that stands out relative to the other people who are saying, who might say similar things? Essentially, do you have a personal value, a personal unique selling proposition? Do you have a personal differentiated value proposition? A reason why all of us should look at you and listen to you specifically, rather than all the other people we should be listening to or looking at or paying attention to or doing business with or referring others to. This is important. And so the self audit and the situation audit and the scan are methods, three methodologies for gaining clarity and doing it in a way that does not cause you stress and is not expensive and is not doesn't just drain your resources, tangible and intangible. Then what I told you about small projects, keep if you can just record that and hold on to that. If you go no further with me, but all you do is turn your vague wishes and your vague anxieties into concrete questions and then into concrete small projects that are scoped as 3-hour projects, 2-day projects, 1-week projects, 3-week projects, 3-month projects. If you just do that and layer small project after small project, you will change your life. Just please come back and say, hey, Gogo, you were right when that happens. If this is the last time you're listening to me, all right? And then finally, building a support network around you. So in the specifics, I'll take all of these and I'll turn this into a what I refer to as a spiral path strategy or a spiral pathway. Because what you're going to find is no matter what you're doing, no matter how much of a multi-potentialite, no matter how much of a multi-passionate you are, you will still need to hit on the same things. There will have to be some fundamentals in your life, in your calendar, in your schedule, in your social network that you hit, that you just go back to repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. And you can add novelty in other areas, but you want the novelty to all be feeding into building the same competencies. And so the platform launch here teaches you how to stack these small projects into a coherent direction that is actually leading you towards greater clarity. And clarity is a priceless gift because what clarity allows you to do is calibrate, is come back, is not get overwhelmed and stuck. It gives you a framework for not getting so distracted by the modern era of social media, YouTube, the news cycle, um, um, gurus, courses, boot camps, conferences. There are 20,000 ways to get lost. There's a pathway for you to gain clarity and to recover when you get distracted, to refocus. And focus is, you've probably heard, if you've been in entrepreneurial circles, or in management and leadership circles for a while, you've probably heard just how important focus is. But as important as personal focus is, it's not as important as the ability to refocus. As a matter of fact, most of the time, what we refer to as focus in terms of longer time scales, like 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, most of what we refer to as focus in those time horizons is really refocusing. Like you got distracted for 5 minutes. Oh, let me get back to it. You got distracted for 10 minutes. Oh, let me get back to it. And you want to create the systems and the skills of refocusing. And that's what part of what we're doing here. But the big thing is that we go in 4 general phases to show you how to have a miracle year that we refer to as the platform launch year. So I hope you're ready for this, and I hope you want to join me on this. If you do, then go ahead and make the next move, and I'll talk to you soon. Again, this is Coach Gogo. I hope that this helped in your journey for clarity. If you have questions that this brought up to your mind, you can always go to facebook.com/ask.coach.gogo, and we'll be able to talk about it. All right. I look forward to talking to you soon.